Hey Shooby-Doodlers, how are you doing? In my recent video of a visit to Chastleton House, some viewers spotted this little shepherd's hut in the background and said, could I show how to draw that? And I thought, what a great idea. But let's not talk about it. Let's do it. I found this picture on Wikipedia of an old shepherd's hut. And I think you can see it has a much more rounded roof, which I find slightly more attractive somehow. It's kind of more old-fashioned. With a bit of research, I discovered their floor plan is about 7 foot by 12 foot. That makes it sort of almost 2 cubes. So one of these is a bit longer than the other. So, but if we think of this as being a box, so it's going to be taller than it's wider. And in fact, do you know, I'm rather jealous because this is actually bigger than my studio, quite a bit bigger than my studio. And in fact, these are becoming quite fashionable, the little sort of garden houses and studios and things. And our last Prime Minister, Mr. Cameron, he went and bought one of these to go and write his memoirs in after he left Parliament. And but they're not cheap. They're not cheap. So so this is kind of how I'm imagining it. So it's a box. And then we put this little D shape on the end of it. And these curves come over slightly to sort of create, they haven't actually got gutters, but they kind of drip, because otherwise it's going to drip all over the sides. And then they also come forward that little bit to create a kind of porch, I suppose you would call it. A little bit of a porch over the front, and a little bit of a porch over the back there too. And then you're going to have a doorway and a kind of a thickness to the base, and this of course is all corrugated down here, and we have a little window. So we want to keep following these verticals here, and then also we want to keep kind of echoing this line here as a parallel line. So this will be kind of the window frame, and then these will keep being vertical, and again these want to be quite that's going to be quite corrugated as well. And I'm imagining there's going to be a little stove down here, so we're going to have a chimney popping out of the top there. So that'll be like a tube, but that'll be kind of a strange angle there. And then we're also going to want to have some flashing there, which is probably going to be sort of corrugated as well. And on top of it, we're going to have a little hat as well, to maybe some smoke coming out of it. And then we've got this door. But to be able to get out of the door, let's think about how we're going to get out first of all. We're going to need some steps. And I think that they will go flat on the floor down there like that. So this needs to be parallel to this, with a thickness on the top. That's going to be going parallel slightly more that way. That doesn't feel right. That doesn't quite feel right, does it? So that would be... That's more, that's, I think it's more of a, this should be following that, like that. So drawing these extra little lines is going to help me get those actually flat on the floor. And then we're going to want to have a, let's think, we'll have a step about there on the top. We'll have a step about there, and we'll have one in the middle there like that, and it'll have a thickness to it. So what happens is we got these wheels, which are quite big wheels, and that's going to be, they're kind of flat steel rims, but this one here, and this is quite high, so this is just up above the level of the bottom of the wagon, but this one over here is smaller, like a dragster I suppose, isn't it? But this is smaller so that it can tuck in underneath as you are steering. So this is on a bogie at the front, and again this has a kind of a thickness to it, and we want to have 6 spokes on that there like that. So here you're probably going to see some of that wheel as well. Should be going something like that, and I'm not entirely sure whether you're going to see here. So this is a great big chunky bit of axle, So let's see, that's that angle that we want there, so that will follow on there. And we might just see, oh, I don't know, a tiny bit or something there. Then the door has a, again, that's the wrong angle, you see, it's trying to keep this angle going. The door has a barn, kind of a stable kind of door, so we could actually have this open, which would make it a bit more interesting, wouldn't it? So we have that folded back, and there's going to be a little window, but I think also we're going to have a supporting thing on the back of the door there, and a handle, and then we're going to need a thickness for the inside of the door frame. So that is basically it, and I think we can have a bit of grass around there. And look, this is a completely different angle, and I've done exactly what I did with the dovecot video. Did you see that one? Click up here to see my Chesterton House video. And what I did here was I kind of zoomed up and imagined myself looking down on it, and I've done the same thing with this. It's just kind of the way I think of drawing it, I suppose. I could draw it in other ways. I could be drawing it much more from the side and have the wheels there, and oh, I think maybe that needs to be slightly more vertical there. That would be, yeah. And then we'd have the curve on the top there, and the curve on the top. This would have to come out a little bit to create that porch, and that would have to come out a little bit there, and you'd have the window and the door. Or we could do some really dramatic kind of things. We could kind of do wild perspective, but it works exactly the same way. So this would have to come down on the sides a little bit there, and we'd have the window there. So basically we got this vanishing point there and a vanishing point there, and this will be 2-point perspective, and here we'd have a wheel very much in close focus, so that would be much smaller back over there, and then you'd see that there. But this would have to be resting on the same spot on this perspective line like that, and then we'd have the door kind of open like that, and we'd need the porch bit to be open, and we'd be looking up underneath the porch in that case. And I think here we need to have a little bit of, you can see there's a little bit of kind of thickness in there, but I think in fact that should start round about there and come in like that, something like that. So, and of course we could do something very much more sort of sideways on, and just much more square, which would be kind of like that, with the stairs coming down and the barn door open. And some people might find that an awful lot easier to draw, but it's not quite so demanding. I think if you want to, so I think we've probably got a block of something under there. I think if you want to really push yourself, it's good to try things from different angles and not always the easy way out. So now what I'm going to do is I'm getting my light pad, and I'm going to switch that on, and I'm going to put this on the top. That's probably going to kind of disappear into nothingness because I've got the light shining through, and I'm going to use my sketch here to trace through. And I've just changed the exposure a bit so that you can see what's going on through there. And where on earth to start? I think this front edge is the nearest thing, so I'm going to draw that first, and then I'm going to draw a wrinkly, wiggly, crinkly line all the way to the end, and I think we've got a hint of thickness there, and then we got wriggly wiggly. Let's do this bit here first actually, and then that would be, so this will come down and up, and the little hat on the top of it, I'm just going to put little bits of shading in there because that's going to be metal, and I might have smoke coming out there, and then I can finish that bit there, which is going to curve down to there, and that can come back a little bit and up, and then this is going to be kind of piece of wood or baton, the thing that holds this porch up underneath. What I'm going to do is I'm going to bring down this corner to there, and I'll bring the step, bring that there, and then I'm just going to do kind of the grass there, and I'm going to bring the top of the step up to there. Then I think from here I can bring that down to about there and up to there, so we've got the kind of the thickness of the sides, and then I'm going to want that to come back, and then this comes across. Looks a bit wobbly, doesn't it? You wouldn't want to go up that step after you'd had a night out. And then that will come up to there, and then here we're going to want that to come across there like that, so that's kind of the top step, which now means that we can put some little bits of grass in there, and we can put the rest of the side up there like that. So we got a step, we can get into this place. Now this is going to be the top of the top half of the stable door, and then I'm going to put, I think that should have been not quite so thick actually, and that should be a bit thicker. That's what it should have been. Not entirely concentrating. So this is the top part, so then we can put the little window in there, and then we need to put the top of this part of the door in there, and we can put the hinges there like that, and I'm not going to put the wood things in there. I can do that in the paint later, which will be a bit more subtle. I think this is not quite vertical enough, so I'm going to do that because I know this is going to be quite dark in here, and I can maybe I'll put some shading in there because I know that's going to be dark, and so at the same time I'm covering up my mistake. And then this could come down to there like that. Oh, that should have been wiggly at the bottom, shouldn't it? Because that's corrugated too. Now the next thing I feel is, oh, I'm losing the light. Hang on, switch that back on again. Now the next thing I feel is this wheel, and so I'm going to draw all the way around. Oh, so maybe a bit of grass at the bottom there, and then that will come around like that, and then we want the central axle part, and then this comes up and forks out into a Y shape. This is very complicated, so let's do this bit. So that will come out there into a Y, this will come out into a Y, that's pretty much from there I think, and then this too, so that will go into a Y. So this comes out here, and this will kind of disappear around the back there. I'm slightly adrift there, but never mind. Good, that feels about right. And then we can do this wiggly line all the way along the bottom, which is going to be the corrugated bit all the way coming down. I think I can do the window frame now. That will come there and across. That will come up and up and up and all the way across there like that. I think we are getting there. Now we've got to do a similar thing on this wheel, but it's not quite so big, so it's Let's try to squeeze a bit more in, and here I'm just going to put that on the bottom, and we need to get kind of a thickness of this. It's like a metal tire really. So that's the axle, and I'm just going to do these bits a bit more simply, I think, here. So this will come out from there, that will come from there. I didn't quite get that axle bit in the middle, did I? No, there we are. Hub, rather. It's a hub. I'm sure somebody, there'll be a vehicle wheel expert who's screaming, "It's a hub, it's a hub, it's a hub." I'm sorry. Sometimes when I'm drawing, it's quite difficult to remember those precise technical terms when they're needed. So we're going to do this one here now, like that. And I think we just need to do something like that. There we go. And I don't think you're really going to see much of that other one. Now I'm going to put a hint of grass in the background. Now you could put a sheep in there if you like, or a little lamb. Click up here to see how to draw them. That's a whole other video. I'm not going to go into that now. I'm going to put a bit of shade in there. And I think I'm going to put, I'm not going to draw all the corrugations, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to put kind of like the shadow of the dark part of the corrugations in underneath here to give it extra definition. And I'm just going to spin this round a bit. I think I'm just going to do this on the top. I'm not going to do all these corrugations all the way around. This is just to give a feeling of it being corrugated, really. Now I'm feeling I should be doing something maybe around here, maybe not. I don't know. I'm not happy with that. I think we need some more around here as well, and that can go there because that's going down behind the door like that. And I think we could maybe do that and bring it up at a slight kind of angle like that as well. And I'm just going to put a bit of shadow in under those steps. That will bring it forward. So I have got my faithful cheap old sketching set and my Aquash water brush, and I'm trying to think. I'm going to assume this is old corrugated iron on the roof, and so I'm just going to do this very, very simply. I'm not going to do any fancy schmancy painting at all, I don't think, and I don't think you need to. But what I will do is I think I'll just put some sort of stains in every now and then, sort of, so it's not completely even, and just bring that to the edge like that there, and we can let that dry. And then these wheels are pretty rusty as well, so I'm going to come around here. I'm going to leave a little white edge there, just to try and give it a hint of thickness like that, and then we can pretty much paint the whole of this. I should have a bogey or what's it going through the middle, shouldn't I? I haven't drawn that bit yet. I will in a moment. And then again I'm just going to warm this up a little bit like that, maybe a bit of red in there. So we got the steps. And as I say, I'm not going to do this terribly complicatedly. And I'll tell you what, while I'm doing this bit here, you know, if you were to join me on Patreon, you'd be able to watch this video without any adverts. That's something pretty good all on its own. But also, I'll be putting all this material in a PDF you can download to help you if you want to have a go at it yourself. So why not click this button over here and come over and join me on Patreon. Now I'm going to go for this kind of green colour, but this is a bit too green, so I'm going to add a bit of little hint of brown in there, I think, or maybe a touch of red. Just want to take it down a little bit so it's not quite so a sort of bright green, and then I'm going to just very quickly colour in these areas and just put in a basic flat area. Oh, I've gone on. Put my finger on the paint there before it's dry, which is not good. And there's a little bit gone over, and I'm just kind of brushing that in a bit to try and lose that little bit of brown there. And it's just going to keep the paint on the move, and then you'll get a fairly even distribution of paint. I think that's one of the things. Watercolour, you have to sort of don't brush like mad, because then you're going to rip up the paper, but you need to kind of move quickly to keep the thing flowing. And I think I'm going to paint that bit there green as well underneath the eaves, and then we're going to have the window frame. We'll have that brown as well. This all looks a bit boring at the moment. This is just kind of underpainting. This is kind of setting the base level, I suppose. Now I'm going to have something slightly brighter, but not terribly strong. And I don't think I'm going to do much more than this for the grass. It's just to kind of anchor it in something. And then while it's wet, I think what I might do is I'm going to put in a little bit of shade in there. I think that's going to be coming that way, and we'll get some shade in under there as well, which is actually giving us pretty much a similar tonal value and colour value to the side of the wagon. Now I'm going to get my trusty hairdryer, because some of us can't sit around all day waiting for it to dry. So, you know, otherwise you could go and have a coffee break or something and let that dry. And so I'm just going to do lots of stripes down here. I think with watercolour, you know, you can be really, really delicate with it, or you can kind of paint quite hard with it, as it were, with you know, more using more paint. But I always think of watercolour as sort of more like drawing with light almost. I don't know how many times I said it, you know, that what you're doing is you're placing these transparencies over this brilliant white light of the white paper. So I'm going to go very, very quiet now, and I'm going to take my time doing this. And so I think pretty much I'm going to speed up through this. See you on the other side. And I think we might want it to be a little bit darker on this side, so we're going to kind of try and give a feeling of curvature by using kind of tonal values and using sort of darker shades of the brown on this side to try and give it that curve. And I think in fact that can be really quite dark, and pretty dark under there too. I'm going to get this green, and I'm going to add quite a lot of neutral tint, which is a kind of a dark colour. And actually I'm just going to paint that shadow in altogether, I think. Just sort of outline the door there, and then we're going to have shadow in underneath here as well. I'm going to make that wobbly at the bottom. That's the wrong colour there for the window, isn't it? But never mind, how am I going to get away with that? Just squeeze that bit out from there. I'll sort that out later. I don't want to be doing that, do I? No. I'm going to sort that bit out later when I get to it. Sometimes you make mistakes, and you don't want to see me do anything perfect. It's like the Formula One race car driving, stuff like that. You don't go there to see people go round and round and round. You go to see them crash, don't you? The only reason you watch a painting video is to see somebody get it wrong, which of course you can get rid of all those things in the edit, but I'm not going to, because I think if I go wrong, you can see that I am only mortal, and if I get it wrong, then it's okay if you get it wrong. And it's kind of learning how to come back from those little mistakes and what to do about them, I think, that counts. So we're going to want that to be quite dark on the inside of that. To this wood as well on the door. There. And I think we'll make these a little bit darker on the inside there, and on the front of the step, and then down there a bit. I can probably do a bit more yet onto that. I think we need to get a bit of curvature into these wheels, so I'm going to use something a bit darker on the inside of the rims, like that. These certainly need a bit of shade, and that will be separate. I never put that bogey in here either, did I? There we are. We need something coming across like that. You'll probably see there too. So I can paint that underneath there, and that gives us a little bit of extra definition here to make the corner stand up and forwards a bit. And then these wheelie bits like that, and I still think we need these to be a bit more kind of a definite colour there, and then also these edges of the plank here like that, I think. And then we're going to get a little bit of shadow probably just across there, I think, and we'll get a little bit sort of across there as well, and maybe underneath. I think this could be quite a bit darker. And then we want something sort of silvery blue for the window, don't we, like that. It's going to be, so I'm just going to put those little marks there to represent glass. And this will be quite silvery as well. I should explain what on earth this thing is, actually. It was used in, have I done that? I can't remember what I've said so far, but it was used in olden times for the shepherds who were kind of out in the fields looking after their flocks all summer long. And, you know, so they could, this is their little house that they lived in, basically, and it could be wheeled along to wherever they were going to be. As the grass ran out and you needed fresh grass, you could move this along, and it was somewhere for the shepherd to live. So it was their little home on wheels. And now they have become very, very popular and fashionable as kind of garden houses, garden buildings, in a kind of a cute, kind of pastoral kind of way. And 7 foot by 12, which is bigger than my studio. I'm very jealous of anybody who's got something this size, and it is rather cute. And I imagine they're all done with, you know, proper insulation and everything now. And as I say, and you can get these nice little wood burning stoves and things like that. But mind you, I think we're going to get new regulations coming in about burning wood and things soon. Maybe that's just in towns. So we can have a little bit of shadow underneath there as well, I think. And we're going to need a little bit to make these darker in the shadows, and then we're going to want darker on the edges there as well. We can maybe have a bit of smoke coming out, like that's much too smoky. Now what I need is some darkish green, and then what I'm going to kind of hint at the, I could put in a great heavy shadow, but I don't really want to. I think that would be a bit kind of too heavy, so I'm going to suggest it in grass. Not entirely sure about that, so maybe I will Go and do that and give it more, a bit more depth to the. That's too dark. This is where it all goes wrong now. And I have to start again. I'm not. So I'm going to make that a bit darker under there. And I think I'm going to, this is where it's a bit weird because it's kind of gone to the same tonal value there. This still doesn't look right because we need a bit of shadow underneath there. And we need to put sort of boards in here. Like that. And again here. I need this kind of vertical board. I don't know what I can paint over those thing in a minute, can't I? So those want to be quite dark. And that will want to be quite dark, I think there. I'm going to make this much darker underneath there. And then maybe a bit of a hint of texture there. You can just keep fiddling with this forever, can't you? Okay, now I'm going a bit experimental. So what I've got here is inktense. So it's a little block of inktense, which is ink in a block. Okay, that's confusing. Now the trouble with this is it dries waterproof, but you do get a brighter colour. So I'm just going to see what happens if I get over the whole thing, whether that might lift it a bit, because it's a bit muted at the moment. It's going to lift it, but then it's going to take some of the definition of the contour of the corrugations away, isn't it? So, but then again, I could be creative there and try filling those in with coloured pencil in a moment. Let's see what happens. So this has all been very experimental, and because it's ink, as I said, it's going to dry. I'm going to put a bit of hint of green in there. Then I'm going to clean this up pretty smartish because it does dry. Waterproof in theory. I don't want to clog everything up. So I'm going to say that I've finished with the watercolour stuff, and I'm going to take this off the table, and I'm going to finish up with coloured pencils. So I'm going to do this, but I could have feeling this, that might be a bit too much, so I'm going to change again. And everyone's going to want to know, what are these colour pencils? They are Faber Polychromos. They are quite expensive, but they are very, very good. I find a lot of coloured pencils are really rather soft, and these generally kind of hold a point quite well, unlike others which kind of go blunt very, very quickly. So these are quite good for drawing. Now this is getting really quiet. I don't know. So I'm just going to do some kind of darker bits around here, being more accentuated, which we can probably do better with a pencil by having a kind of a more definite straight line, and try not to go over onto the wheels like I just did. So I'm rushing because I'm feeling panicked about how long this video is going to be, basically. I think if I was doing this quietly on my own, it would be very, very different. As I often say, I'm going to make different decisions while I'm doing a video because I'm talking. This is actually starting to look a bit better, I think. And I think maybe I don't want to use black, but I'm going to use this dark brown in there just to kind of accentuate this shadow underneath there. And I think we need something much darker for the window frame there, and so the whole thing is getting darker, really, isn't it? Completely carried away now. So once I started, you can't stop. You want this kind of wooden thing going on here. We need a lock as well, don't we? Make that darker under there. I could carry on doing this all afternoon, but I don't really want to. Do you think it's getting better? It's getting more defined, isn't it? And I think if I'd done the whole thing, I would have taken my time making these much more definite and curved in one direction or another. And then put some kind of grey in there as well. And look, I could keep going, look, because this needs sorting out there as well, like that. Oh, you could just keep going and going forever and ever and ever and ever and ever. Thanks for watching, and you can support this channel and get so much more on my Patreon page. Click to find out more. Make sure you are subscribed to the Shoo Rayner Drawing Channel on YouTube, and in the meantime, keep drawing, drawing, drawing. Practice, 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 and I'll see you next time. You take care now. Bye-bye.